going on, everybody? Welcome in to the first PGA breakdown for 2025 now. Little thrown off this week with the way that the new year fell, and the first tournament fell right on the same week. So our plan is to have this show each and every Tuesday night with a probably a rotating guest between DOB, Nate, and Chris throughout the year. So probably Tuesday evenings is going to be the time for this show. So wanted to go ahead and get it out at least somewhat near, but of course had the new year tonight. So happy New Year, everybody. But we're going to go through shorter field, no cut event. We're going to kind of go through just some general stuff here for the Sentry, and get the year kicked off right down in Hawaii, and look forward to a really strong year. If you guys haven't checked us out before, the links down in the description of the video can get you to our site to sign up for a weekly, monthly, yearly subscription. You can do just PGA, you can do all sports, you can do another sport, whatever you guys play. We have pretty much everything covered. And so ready to hop in. There's one piece that I'm going to have to, I don't have it added to the PGA sheet yet. But when we get towards the end, I'm going to show you something that we're looking at adding to all of our sheets to help with hand building. I think that's a lot of most of our members do hand building instead of using an optimizer, and I think you can do that, in a smarter way, because optimizers have tons of course, benefit to you. But if you are just paying for our subscription, you don't want to go out and have an optimizer cost as well. I think this is going to help you if you're building one team, 3 teams, 5 teams, 20 teams even. For PGA, I think it's going to be really something that's beneficial to you guys. So I've got it on the college football sheet for tomorrow, so I'll flip over there and I'll show you kind of the gist of what we're looking at when we add that. I've got it just titled Builder for now. But hopping into the Sentry, come here each and every year. One of the biggest birdie fest on tour, no cut event. Probably going to get 25 or even more under par this week. Weather looks really good. No Scotty, no Rory, no Tommy Fleetwood. So missing some guys here for sure that normally would have been qualified. So I think what that does is we get a clear decision at the top of pricing when we get there here in just a few minutes about Xander Schauffele and then the group down below. Pretty soft pricing now since Scotty was, in the field to start with. So we'll get into that in just a minute, but a little overview on the course. Like I said, big scoring here. You're going to need to go super low. You're going to need to be able to putt. Of course, very wide fairways. We're pretty familiar with this course each and every year as we come back here. Wide fairways, wedge play is going to be very important. So if you look at the proximity buckets in the iron play and wedge play that I've got allocated, I've actually got some on the very low end wedges and then a little bit on the longer irons too, because there are some long iron shots that they're going to have into these greens on the par fives and so on. Driving distance is not very important to me here or off the tee really at all. Putting, I'm probably a little heavier on than normal because you're going to have to get some super hot putting rounds, and we'll touch on some guys that pop in scoring, which is, leads into the birdie or better rate. That was something I touched on when we posted our Twitter thread on Monday. So that's our stat model for the week. We're looking at short wedges, long irons, scoring stats, of course, irons like pretty much every week on approach play, and probably a little heavier in putting. I'm usually 5 or 10% putting here. We're going to be 15 in the model. We have this part. The rankings will change a little bit. The stat rankings is what we just went through here on the model, the course history, the odds. As we get into tomorrow, this is something that I'll update and probably wait in the model is the value ranking. That just looks at the odds versus the DK price and picks out people who are mismatched there. So, for example, Homa 50-1 has the biggest differential between that and where he's priced all the way down at 7,100 on DraftKings. So that's something to look at. I usually don't look at that until Wednesday, but let's hop into the ranges here. Going to try to keep these videos probably 30, 45 minutes. This one will probably be even, probably pushing the 30 range just because it's only me. So don't have somebody to bounce things back and forth off of. But at the top of pricing, like I mentioned earlier, you've got Xander. You've got, then it drops down into a pretty big cluster. Colin, Cantlay, Aberg, Obear, Thomas, Matsuyama, M, Hovland, Finau, Burns are all 9K and above, 9 to 10K pretty much. So I think it's a clear decision, and we have value. We have a no-cut event that we don't have to worry about, some of these lower guys not getting the full 4 rounds in. So I think Xander's going to end up being very popular here with good reason. I mean, 6 or 7 to 1, depending on the book that you're looking at. I think he's definitely the best play in the field. The question just becomes, what type of contest are you playing, and is that where you want to get your leverage? To me, in single entry, probably not. I'll probably would end up with Xander as of right now in single entry stuff. I don't think there's a big enough discount in terms of ownership to drop down to that next range. I mean, you've got Morikawa is probably going to be somewhat similar just because of the $900 price difference. He's been really good here in the past, as you can see, 5th, 2nd, 5th, 7th, 7th at the Sentry. So I don't think there's a big enough drop-off to take a stand on fading Xander in something like a single entry. I think there's ways to build differently with him or without him in larger field stuff if you're doing 20 max and things like that. And even 3 max, I think you could fade him in 1 of the 3 or 2 of the 3 and still have some exposure. Morikawa, like I mentioned, been pretty good here. I think he'll be one of the other popular guys in this range, along with JT, who I'm pretty high on for the year as a whole. I've got him highlighted right now as another core option, ranked 2nd in the model, 2 wins here in the past. He's been just overall historically really good in Hawaii in general here and next week at the Sony. Coming off a 3rd at the Hero, 2nd, I think, at the Zozo. So things are trending really well for him. I guess the question would be, can he make enough putts to score, 25, 30 under par? I don't know. We'll see. But really high on him for the year as a whole. Obear is a really, seems like a good course fit. Came back late in the fall, got a couple reps under his belt at the Hero and I think the RSM. Bomber, he plays well on any type of course, to be honest. Wasn't very good here last year in his first appearance, 47th. But I think he's definitely in play. Him and Colin there at the upper part of this range makes some sense. As you drop down into the lower portion, Sam Burns, I think, is going to pick up a little bit of steam. I've been seeing some stuff, trending towards him over the industry. Sungjae, I think, is going to do something similar. I think Hovland's going to be low owned. I think Finau, with the injury concerns, going to be low owned. Hideki's going to be low owned, which he tends to be, especially when he gets up in this range. I think those are some of the things to look at if you want to get leverage up here. Out of that group, Sungjae would be my favorite. Even though he's, like I said, probably going to get some popularity. The Hovland deal, he broke his toe. We don't really know. I don't like the spot for him here with a lot of elevation changes. Walking just seems like it's going to be fairly hard for him here. So don't really like that for Victor this week. Same with Finau. I mean, we just don't know a whole lot about the injury and where that's going to be. So I feel like I'm fairly chalky in this upper range, but it kind of is what it is. I think for me this week, I'll just get different in the low part of pricing. The 8K, as we drop into there, you got Akshay, Wyndham, Connors, Thigala, down to Grazerman at 8K. So Grazerman's the first guy that I'll talk about. Coming off a very strong end of the year last year, strong fall swing. He actually rates out third in birdie or better in this field from 2024. Really like him this week. I think he can get hot with the putter. Ranks number 1 in putting in 2024 overall on all surfaces in this field. I think he's a very good play. I think he can go super low if he gets hot. The putter's not going to be a worry for me like it is for a guy that we'll get into right here with like a Corey Connors. Don't think I'll be playing him this week. He rates out good in the model. I just don't think – I don't like playing guys like him in a putting contest. So I will probably stay away, even though he's very good, as you can see with his wedges, long irons, very solid. But I just don't like the putter here, and you got to be you got to score a lot to get to where you need to be in this field. Other guys, though, Adam Scott, he's somewhat similar to Connors to me, but he can get hot with the putter. I mean, we've seen it plenty. Over the last few years, it just seems like he hasn't put the two together at the same time, the irons and the around the green game. But he's coming off of a recent form. If you look at that, he's been really good putting, which, again, I kind of want this week. Wyndham, I think the wide fairways favor him here. He can score. He can putt. I think he's a really good play at 8,800, and I don't think he's going to get super popular. So I'll probably try to get pretty overweight on Wyndham, depending on how many teams I build this week. Ben On, I think, is another strong option in the mid 8Ks. He looks to be one of the more popular in this range, him and Grazerman. I think they're solid plays, though. You just got to maybe play them, in a little different construction than what we're used to, or what the conventional wisdom would be. 7Ks, we have Davis Thompson at the top of this range, dropping all the way down to Chris Kirk, our defending champ. So I'll just touch on a few people here. Jason Day is a guy that sticks out to me. We know he can get hot with the putter. He was 10th here a year ago. Just, overall solid history here in the past, even though it was a much smaller field back when he was playing this in 19, 17, 16. He was still in the top third of that field. Decent form to end the year as well. So I think he's a strong play in the mid sevens. The Cameron Young, that play, again, the putter stuff worries me with him. The scoring, can he go that low? That's something that scares me a little bit. Same thing with Siwoo. We know he can get hot, but the putting just seems to be very iffy to me. He is coming off of, a strong, if you look at his form, where was his form? Withdrew at the RSM, but was 6th at Zozo and 5th in the playoffs to end his season last year. So coming off some strong form at the end of the year. I don't think I can get there. Davis Thompson's a fine option in tournaments. Poston's a fine option if he can get hot with the putter. McNeely coming off the win in the fall could go there. He can putt. Harmon can putt, but, is he going to be able to put himself in enough scoring positions? Possibly. He was 5th here a year ago. I think that's a intriguing option to me. Homa, we already touched on him a little bit when we were talking about the value of his odds to pricing. I think, he can bounce back this year in 2025. So we'll see. I think him and Fitzpatrick are interesting plays here coming up. I don't know that this is the week for them, that they have to go solo. But they definitely could do it. That's pretty much it in the 7s. Eckroat is a guy that I've been playing. Overall, just seems like I always am on Austin Eckroat. But he does tend to be similar to the profile that I'm staying away from in terms of putting, not being very good. He doesn't rate out very well in the proximity ranges that I'm looking at, or the scoring, really. So, or the birdie or better stuff. So, interesting fade there. Don't know that he'll get that much ownership. Nick Dunlap is a guy that can go low. He's won a Birdie Fest. I think he's an intriguing option. Probably get some exposure there as well. In terms of ownership, Pendrith is a guy that I think is going to be the most popular in this range, it looks like, at least right now. I think he makes sense. He's a good course fit. It's just, again, it comes down to we can't play all the most popular guys in the same lineup. We need to build differently depending on which ones in these ranges we're comfortable playing. If it is a Pendrith, or if it was back up in the other range with a Ben-On or Grazerman and Xander. We can't play all those guys together because we're just going to have such duplicated teams to where it's really hard to get to the top. So it's not that we have to X all those guys out of the pool. We just need to build a little bit differently than the conventional structure. Finishing up in the 6K range, and then I'm going to show you the builder really quick. I think there's some intriguing options down here, and the first one's going to be Harry Hall for me. I mentioned him in our Twitter thread. Ranks out number 1 in the field, birdie or better. Really good putter, can get hot. He rates out just really good overall in the scoring stuff. And, he's a guy that can go out there over the weekend, even if he's not in top contention, and shoot a really low score for you, move up the leaderboard for DK scoring and get it done. 6,800. I don't know how popular he'll be. I don't think it'll be too crazy. But he may end up being one of the top 4 or 5 owned in the 6K range. But I think he makes quite a bit of sense. Eric Cole is the guy that I've seen the most chatter about. He can putt. He makes sense, from a course fit. But, at the ownership, do we want to bite the bullet? Again, you got to choose who are your favorite of these chalkier pieces, and don't be scared to play them. You never want to fade somebody just because their ownership. Just find a different way to build with them. Zalatoris seems like he's going to be really low owned. here. I think he has a strong year. Can he make enough putts, I guess would be the question. He was 11th here in 23, coming off some decent form. If you look at where he's been playing, 41st at the Zozo, but in the playoffs last year, he's 12th and 13th in the year. So I think that's in play for me. Straka's in play down there. Don't think he's going to get that much ownership. Rye was really good to end the year and doesn't seem like he's going to get very much ownership here. So I think he's in play. Dropping down lower, you got Patton Kazire who can putt. He was the couple years that he played here, 18 and 19, solid finishes. He popped, some starts ago for a win. Maybe he, comes out strong to start the year. Nico is the last guy that I'll mention down here. Coming off a very strong end of the year. He was, second at the RSM, won the Zozo, sixth at the Worldwide Technologies. Definitely think that's in play. So there's, like I mentioned at the top, there's a lot of guys in the sixes that we're going to be somewhat comfortable playing, which I think pushes the ownership up on Xander, pushes up the product ownership of Xander and JT. So we just got to find a way to build a little differently. As I post my cores and ranks tomorrow, I'll try to do that, especially in the GPP core, and see how we can get different in a smaller field no cut event. But I'm going to show you guys. This is going to go to the college football sheet for tomorrow. But what I'm going to show you is the builder tool that I'm going to map over to PGA here probably tonight. And this is what it is. So I've got spots where, and I know a lot of you guys make a copy of our PGA sheet, and we'll, just so you mainly can list out and build your models with the stats that might be a little different than ours, and do things like that. So this is really built for people who are doing that, because you're going to want to make a copy of the sheet just so you have this to build out your full teams and see what the exposures are as you go. That's something that I had always struggled with when I'm hand building multiple teams is, can I get the exposures that I want like I can in an optimizer? And so if you look down the left side, we've got 5 different teams. You could copy paste this down and add more. And as you put, and again, this is for college football, but as you put certain players in, I'll just put Riley Leonard in, it populates their exposure in the J column. And then I've got it split out here on this sheet by quarterback, running back, receiver. Of course, PGA is just going to be by pricing. So there won't be any splits by any positions. But you'll be able to easily see, all right, I'm looking at the 8K range and my exposures. Where am I at on my exposures? I'm building 20 teams out. I've done 10 of them. Do I need to make some adjustments as I go forward? And it's just a lot better visually to me to be able to see that. And, I plan to do, even more things with this in terms of mapping things out on this sheet, not just exposures. Maybe you see what are your most, these are just some ideas that I have. What are your most common combinations? Like how many Xander teams have JT? things like that I think you could do that would help you in hand building quite a bit. And so I want to get some feedback on that. I'm going to put it over into the PGA sheet here in a bit, but I want to see what you guys think about it. Got some good feedback earlier from the guys that are on our college football package about it. I built 5 teams today for college football, and I used it, and it was really helpful. It was done exactly what I wanted it to do in terms of just having that data in front of me. So hoping that can be beneficial for not just college football, but PGA. I think that's a very one that will benefit greatly from that is PGA. And then I'm going to put it probably in our other sports as well, just so it's there and usable. NBA, college basketball, NFL. I'm going to put that into there. And again, continue to build on that as we go into the off season for certain sports and things that we can build on that. And golf each and every week, we can make updates to that. But that'll do it for this week. Kept it right around 30 minutes. Again, we're going to be trying to do this every Tuesday. It's going to be myself and probably a rotating guest between DOB, Chris, and Nate. So good luck to everybody here in the first week of 2025. Happy New Year again. Thanks you guys for joining me who are live here late. It might not be the new year for you guys yet. You might be farther out on the Central or the West Coast. I guess Central is the new year, just very, very recently. But Happy New Year to everybody, no matter when it is for you. And we'll see you in the Discord.